can't lose. No, we can't lose.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Gambling gods, fickle bunch.
Oh, yeah.
So easily affected.
We have a shooter and a good one coming out for a new point. Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen. He's a rolling point is 9, place 9. 9 a winner. Got a hot hand. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
They bet on absolutely anything. Don't make them prove.
If you had a time machine, if you went back 30 years, you would be in video poker heaven that had great pay tables and they treated video poker players like slot players.
You're tuned into Gambling with Good JuJu.
Welcome in, everybody, to Gambling with Good JuJu, the show with more variations than a video poker machine. Today, we're joined by Michael Shackleford, owner of the amazing website Wizard of Odds. We're talking video poker with Michael today, the #1 casino game men play while waiting on their wives to get a drink at the bar.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Does that sound, that's 90% of the reason I play it, Mike.
Oh.
While we kick things off, do us a favor and head on over to YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and give us a like, follow, subscribe, all those buttons that lets them know you appreciate what we're doing. Check us out on the socials at Good JuJu Bets. And if you really like us, then head on over to goodjujubets.net, click on the merch shop, and show your support. Let's get into this. Mike, welcome into the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Let me correct you on one thing. I no longer own the Wizard of Odds. I sold it several years ago because I am lousy at marketing and advertising, but I still work for the person who bought it. So I'm still very proud of the site. So yeah, thank you again for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's get into this. We both have played video poker. We're familiar with what it is and poker in general. Why does this game seem to be a go-to for so many gamblers?
Oh boy, that's a big question. Why is it a big go-to for many gamblers? First of all, it's very interesting in that video poker is only popular in the United States, especially Nevada. You hardly ever see the game outside of the United States. And I think much like slot machines, it's very hypnotic. It really draws people into kind of a different state of mind. And I think that's why some people like it. You know, I know that real slot players tend to hate it, but the game has its own appeal that only video poker players seem to understand.
I agree. I've definitely, it seems to be the go-to game for me when I'm tired at the casino and I want a break at the casino.
Yeah.
And I've heard that before. I think we had a former guest on.
Yeah, Jesse talked about that.
Jesse Howell talked about that as his favorite game for that reason.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I walk up to a bank of video poker machines, I'm likely to see a variety of games to play on the screen. Can you give a little background on the general game of video poker as well as which variations of the game are most common?
Oh boy. Okay, so basic video poker is there's a deck of cards. It gives you 5 random cards and you pick which ones you want to hold, and then it takes away the ones you throw away and deals you replacement cards from the other 47 cards left in the deck, much like draw poker in a home poker game.
Right.
And you're paid according to the poker hand that you achieve after this draw. And there's all kinds of variations. I mean, first of all, the first basic game was just jacks or better. It's just very simple. And then they've started changing the pay table, bonus poker, double bonus, Deuces Wild, Joker poker, triple double bonus, one-eye jacks, all kinds of things.
Jeez.
Just to have different choices. But it's basically the same concept with all the games. You know, you get a hand, throw away some cards and try to improve it. And you're paid based upon the hand that you get.
Okay. Now, we've read on your site some of the ways to, if not profit on video poker, at least minimize losses or achieve an edge that's comparable to some of the best games in the casino, correct?
You guys ask questions I could talk all day about. But, if you had a time machine, if you went back 30 years, you would be in video poker heaven that had great pay tables, and they treated video poker players like slot players, meaning very well. But today, video poker is a tough game, and just about every video poker advantage player that I know has almost given up on the game and gone on to other things or nothing at all.
Are there variations of the game that you can identify that are like when I sit down at a bank, there are 8 games that might pop up and of different video poker varieties. Are there certain ones to focus on to minimize losses while you're playing?
Good question. So there's no easy answer to that question. You're probably going to see a menu of games like Jacks or Better, Bonus Poker, Double Bonus, Deuces Wild Bonus, and they're all going to have different pay tables. And which one do you pick? There's no easy answer.
Yeah.
You know, my website or my book will tell you the return of any given game and pay table. So ideally, you look up the return of all your choices and play the best one.
Okay.
So each game, each variation has a different pay table.
Yep.
But then each
Right.
machine could have a different pay table too, or?
Absolutely. You know, every single game, you know, just say a bonus poker, you know, there's going to be different pay tables. For example, does the full house pay 8? Does it pay 7? Does it pay 6? You know, and the return is going to be correlated to whatever the pay table is.
Gotcha.
Wow. So different casinos will put out a Jacks or Better game, for an example, and have a different pay table than another casino. And then within the bank of games, the pay tables for the different games are also different from one another.
Yep. I mean, the machine right next to you can have different pay tables for the same game.
Oh, and the same
It's not
casino.
even consistent across the games necessarily in the same casino?
Well, you know, casinos, I think, try to be consistent within itself, but they're not always successful in doing that. And sometimes they will sprinkle a few liberal games amongst a lot of tight games. You know, so video poker advantage players will know who has, you know, the good games and where they are located in the casino. But most of them, like the South Point is a good example, is they're very consistent across the whole floor. Like a 25-cent bonus poker machine will always be 8-5, for example.
Gotcha.
I'm
Okay.
guessing a Midwestern Boyd casino isn't giving us the best pay table.
Yeah, one that just renovated all their video poker games? Probably not.
All right. So is there a general strategy one can apply regardless of the variations? Like, are there some just basic fundamentals when you step up to it in terms of, I don't even necessarily know if I have an ace and a king, if I should hold both of them or just one of them or none of them. You know what I'm saying?
We should hold both of them, but no, every strategy, every game, and every pay table has a different strategy.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, what I recommend for beginners is you learn the Jacks or Better pay table, which will also serve you well in bonus poker. And that's a good starting point. And if you use that strategy and say double bonus or double bonus, errors won't be a huge cost to you. But yeah, but to play video poker properly is a challenge. You know, it is something that requires a lot of work, and video poker is the kind of game that if you don't play it properly, you shouldn't play it at all.
Oh, wow.
Is that different from other games? I guess roulette.
Well, let's
you can
compare
play
it.
whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Pretty much doesn't matter what you do. And, you know, craps is another game. As long as you're making the good bets,
Yeah.
you know, you can choose, you know, how much to bet on them as you wish. But video poker, much like blackjack, will punish you if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, so am I going to be able to pick this up in an afternoon, or is this going to take a couple of sessions for me to understand the actual basic
video
strategy?
poker will take you hours, and don't learn at the machine, but you should learn with flashcards and playing on a trainer, something like that.
Gotcha.
Because there are a lot of hands, like you have a high pair or 3 to royal. Which do you go for? And the answer to that is going to depend on the game that you're playing. So, you know, my website it has a video poker practice game that will correct you if you make a mistake, as well as lots of strategies for any given game. So if I may plug myself,
Yeah.
that would be a good place to start.
Is that a free or a paid offering?
No, it's all free.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
fantastic.
amazing. That's incredible. That's a good job.
Yeah.
you.
Harder than basic strategy in blackjack, would you say?
Yes, absolutely. Let me get a video poker strategy card here. Here we go. So I have this whole bin here of strategy cards.
Oh, wow.
But here's one for 8-5 jacks or better, or 8-5 bonus poker, and it has all kinds of different levels of strategies. But
Oh,
here's the beginner strategy. And by the way, I have to give a plug to Bob Dancers. He is the one that made this card. But this will basically show you, starting at the top, the best hands to hold.
gotcha.
For example, I gave you the example of 3-door royal or a high pair. And, this will tell you, let's see. So way up here, we have 3-door royal. And let's see, 3-door royal. And down here, let's see, where is it?
Does the casino frown upon taking these kinds of cards to the machine with me?
No, nobody's going to care.
No one's gonna care.
Technically, at least in Nevada, there is a law that says you can't use gambling devices in the casino.
Yeah.
But using just a physical piece of paper is not a gambling device. So, blackjack dealers might get annoyed with it, but video poker, there's no human being dealing you the cards. So I would encourage anybody to use, have some kind of notes in case they get a tough hand that they don't see very often, to look up how to play it.
Yeah.
Do you have downloadable versions of that little pamphlet you just showed us?
On my
the site?
website, no, that strategy does not belong to me. But if you go to wizardofodds.com and then find your way to games, video poker, strategies, you'll find a whole bunch of strategies for different games.
Yeah.
As well as I have a calculator on the site, and you can put in any game in any pay table, and it will give you a strategy appropriate for that game.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Now you mentioned 3 to royal a couple of times. It seems like that's like the feather in everybody's cap to finally get a royal flush, right? Is that kind of what we're doing when we're playing this game? Is like waiting for the royal flush?
Certainly, yes, psychologically, yes. A royal will come along once in every 40,000 hands, and yes,
Oh
it
my
does
God.
give you that psychological and bankroll lift. So that's what everybody is chasing. But I think recreational players play too aggressively for that royal. And on most games, given the choice between 3-door royal or a high pair, you should take the high pair.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right.
Well, now I know one, because I always go for the royal.
Yeah, that's what I thought
Yeah.
you do.
That's a common mistake. Now, in a Deuces Wild game, you should do that.
Okay.
Because it doesn't pay you anything. But
Oh,
in general, recreational players play too aggressively.
gotcha.
Fact check me here, Mike.
Mhm.
The most popular variations of the game: jacks or better, bonus poker, Deuces Wild, and double bonus poker. Are those the main ones?
I would say that jacks are better is fading away, but absolutely bonus poker, double bonus, and double bonus, and Deuces Wild, I think, are the top 4.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, jacks or better is a very basic variation of that's like the most basic variation of video poker, correct?
I agree.
Yeah. The other 3 have variations with bigger payouts for 4 of a kind and other hard to get hands. Is that basically the primary difference in terms of how they operate behind the scenes?
Yeah, well, the way I would phrase it is that, for example, in bonus poker, they depress the wins on the flush and the full house to bump them up on a high 4 of a kind. On double bonus poker, they reduce the 2 pair from 2 to 1 to bump up those 4 of a kinds even more. Double bonus does it even more, lowering the low pays to pump up the high pays.
Got it.
And they do that because most gamblers like volatility. So
Yeah, so they're really bumping up the jackpots.
So does that change between those games then dictate strategy when it comes to what am I going to hold and what am I going to drop?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For example, if you have an ace and a jack offsuit, in jacks or better, you would hold both of them, but in double bonus, you would hold just the ace because there is that premium for 4 aces.
Got it. So that's why we got to have a different strategy guide for each variation because of the nuance. Of
And
the
we
pay
have to know what the pay table is
Yeah.
at the machine that
Yep.
we're operating at to know what we should do within that game as well.
We're gonna have to do some homework at the local casino for sure.
I mean, there's only one bank of them, correct?
Yeah. I mean, though there's actually 2. There's one in the basement and one on the 3rd floor.
All right. Mike, do you mind if we walk through a couple examples here just to get my feet grounded on how you would decide to play these hands?
Sure.
And we're assuming this is what? Jacks are better?
We're playing jacks or better.
Okay.
We're going with the most basic variation of the game.
All right.
Okay. I'm playing jacks or better, and I get the following cards: an ace of hearts, a king of hearts, an 8 of clubs, a 5 of spades, and a 3 of diamonds.
Okay, let me write this down.
Oh,
Say
boy.
it again.
Ace of hearts, king of hearts, 8 of clubs, 5 of spades, 3 of diamonds.
Oh, absolutely. You hold the ace king suited.
We're
Yeah.
starting off with an easy
All
one.
right.
Okay, so now we're going to go through some slight variations of this. I
Okay.
think you've already answered this. The ace and the king are not suited. You're keeping both.
You would still hold both of them.
You would still
Okay.
keep both.
All right.
Okay. I have a 10, a jack, and a queen of hearts, and 2 low black cards.
Yeah, you would you absolutely go for the 3 to the royal.
You
Okay.
would
All right.
keep the 10 in that situation as well. Okay. All right.
Yeah, even if the 2 low cards formed a pair, you would still go for the 3 to the royal.
Got it.
But if I had that same scenario and I'm sitting on 2 aces as my other cards, then you're keeping the 2 aces?
Yes.
We're getting somewhere.
We're getting a little bit of progress here. Okay, I'm going to skip the next one because that one seems obvious. I have the 6, 7, 8 of clubs, an ace of hearts, and a 3 of diamonds.
So you have 3 to a straight flush with no gaps. So you would keep the suited 6, 7, 8.
Okay.
And if the 8's a 9? So you've got
Well, let's say, for example, the 9 is a 9 of diamonds. Now your choices are 3 to a straight flush with no gaps or 4 to an outside straight. And if you don't mind, just to make sure I don't embarrass myself, well, let me go to my website.
Hell, let's crunch these numbers.
We got one. I got one that he couldn't just go boom.
Yeah.
No, I'll be perfectly honest. I am a little rusty, so I'm going to Game Calculator's Video Poker Calculator. Video Poker Strategy. Let me try that.
Obviously, we'll have these links in the show notes.
Yes.
Maker. Okay, I'm going to have to look at one of these strategy cards to answer them. I'm going to look at the 8-5 jacks card here. And okay, so again, the choices was a straight flush with no gaps compared to a 4 to a straight, 4 to an outside straight. Yeah, you should go for the outside straight in that situation. In other
Okay.
words, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
All right.
That stressed me out.
Yeah, I'm getting this off again, this strategy card. Right
Yeah.
here.
Okay. I feel like I got a lot of practice to do before we
We
do
definitely
this.
don't
Yeah,
know what
this
we're doing.
embarrasses me because I'm quite rusty. And, the truth of the matter is here in Vegas, it's tough to find any good video poker anymore.
Yeah.
So, I haven't played it in, a few months. at
Okay.
least. Even then, I probably had this card by my side
Yeah. Okay.
because I was getting rusty.
Let me walk through one more example. And
Okay.
I think this one will be fairly straightforward. Let's say you have 2 aces and 2 5s, obviously not suited, and
Mhm.
a 3, whatever.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, You keep the 2 pair, and if you get 2 pair, you're always keeping them.
Wild game. Might you keep only 1 pair? It depends on the pay table, but
Yeah.
any kind of jacks or better base game, you would keep both pairs.
Okay.
All right.
So you said you played a couple of months ago, but you're not really into the video poker because there's not a lot of games. Is this advantageous if it's like 5 times tier credit day, or are we just
Yeah.
kind of like,
That is another good question. So, video poker players today are, it's almost impossible to find a 100% game. So they look for the niceties to, they play a decent pay table and then they look for the points to get them over 100%.
yeah,
And to do that, you do generally wait for the big multiplier days. For example, I used to play at the station casinos, which from time to time had a 10 times points day. And the points were worth 1/6 of 1%. So, I played, they had 8-5 bonus poker, which is 99.17%. And the points were worth about 1.6%. So I was playing at about a 1% advantage, assuming that I spent the points on comps, which was good enough for me. And I played it hard. But like many video poker advantage players, they caught on to this and they no-mailed practically all the video poker advantage players in Las Vegas who played at the station casinos, including me.
Wow.
no mailed. What does that mean? Like, you're not eligible?
Means that you just don't get any free play. For example,
Got it.
Yeah, I threw it away, but you'll get something in the mail that says, once a week, pick up $100 in free play.
Yeah. Got it.
So with a 1% edge, including comps, that's good enough for you to press it?
Oh, absolutely. That is generous. Video poker players love a 1% advantage. It is it is a game based on very, very thin advantages.
And that's assuming perfect play.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. All right. If we want to get deeper in the weeds with strategy and around video poker, your website covers a lot more depth to the topic than we're getting into today.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very complicated topic, but my website gets into the depths of it.
Is there anything around the general aspects of the game or something you've learned about the game that we haven't touched on with regards to it?
No, not really. You guys have asked good questions. The basics is look for the best game you can play it with, look for the multiplier days where you get more points and know how the point programs, know how the slot point programs work. And only then might you get the edge over the game.
Okay. So are we nuts even considering this?
Like I said, I moved to Las Vegas in 2001, and it was still, video poker was the game for advantage players back then. And, since then, practically everyone I know who was a professional video poker player has just thrown up their hands and given up. It's just too tough. The pay tables are just too stingy, and I'm no-mailed everywhere, and they have either moved on to real slots or just don't play at all anymore.
Gotcha.
I've never believed I'm going to get a plus EV casino experience out of myself.
Anyway.
But my goal here is to reduce the error that I introduce into the game.
Yeah.
So even if I'm at the casino with you or my wife or whatever, and I'm looking for a break and I want to go do some video poker, knowing how to play it and what to look for to minimize my risk is still an extremely valuable exercise.
Yeah, fair enough.
So thank you very much for that, Mike. Certainly helps in regards to that.
You're welcome.
Last question for you. We asked this of everyone based out in Vegas. We love Vegas. We're going to be out again in August. Any recommendations on where we need to hit up? Anything under the radar for food?
I like the South Point. Not just for video poker, but for everything. They have liberal video poker on every single machine. Every single blackjack table is 3-2. The whole casino is nice rooms, nice restaurants. Everything is reasonably priced. So Yeah, a big recommendation for the South Point.
Fantastic.
And I'm going to be honest with you. We say every time,
Yeah.
now that we're like more in the scene and more engaged, we really want to spend more time at South Point. And then every time we get into Vegas, we end up, well, we're downtown. We like to go down to Circa and that area because we also sports gamble. And so for us, that's the area of the city that we're most familiar with, but we need to make South Point happen.
We need to make it happen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be, and in all honesty, there is nothing good to do near the South Point. It's a local casino on the south part of town, and if you're looking for a fun, exciting experience, you should go downtown. But the video poker is not going to be as good. But downtown, if I remember correctly, the Downtown Grand has decent video poker. So that's where I would probably play if video poker is important to you.
All right.
Okay.
Good to know. Yeah.
All right. Mike, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome. Absolutely. Thank you for the interview.
Absolutely. To learn more about video poker or really any game being played in the casino, wizardsofodds.com is the GOAT of all gambling websites.
Thank you very much, but just Wizard of Odds, singular.
Wizards of Odds. Yes, absolutely singular. Thank you so much for the work you put into it, Mike. And thank you for taking the time to talk with us today.
You're welcome. Thanks again for having me.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We'll be back next episode with Dan Abrams, author of But How Much Did You Lose? Figuring out how much to risk in any given wager is the most important problem in betting, and this book has solved it for you. Good juju to your bets, everyone. We'll talk again soon.
Enjoy it while it lasts. Gambling gods, fickle bunch. Oh yeah, so easily
We
affected.
have a shooter and a good one coming out for a new point. Get your bets down, ladies and gentlemen. He's a rolling point is 9, place 9, 9 a winner. Got a hot hand. Place your bets, ladies and gentlemen.
They bet on absolutely anything. Don't make them prove.
Before they even get your money out, you just shout parlay. And then they put your entire winnings back on that number.
You're tuned in to Gambling with Good Juju.